At the end of the film Titanic, Rose and Jack are distributed among the detritus of the sunken ship.
The most controversial part of the Titanic. Would Jack have been able to fit on that door? The film Titanic, which was directed by James Cameron and released in 1997.
Buoyancy to support both of them?
You made a movie about the Titanic?
Yes.
Continues to be one of the most cherished and passionately contested films of all time. An issue that has continued for decades is the following. Could Jack have fit on the door with Rose, and would he have survived? This question is among the many that have been discussed about the film. A great number of discussions, scientific tests, and even answers from the director and performers have been triggered by this question, which appears to be quite straightforward. In this post, we will examine the topic from a variety of viewpoints, including physics, survival science, and cinematic narrative, among others. The scene that is being discussed. The RMS Titanic has sunk toward the end of the film, leaving Jack, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and Rose, played by Kate Winslet, adrift in the icy waters of the North Atlantic Ocean. While Rose can succeed in climbing onto a massive wooden panel, which is commonly referred to as the door, Jack continues to remain in the water and holds onto the edge of the panel. The hypothermia that he was suffering from ultimately led to his death, although Rose was rescued. Since the beginning of the show, people have been arguing that there was sufficient room on the floating debris for both Jack and Rose. Is it true that the problem was solely related to space, or were there other elements at play? Following the beginning of the sinking of the Titanic and the passengers who were able to escape being left adrift in the icy waters of the North Atlantic Ocean, the door that was sold at auction was featured in the most dramatic moment of the film. Rose and Jack are two of the passengers who attempt to survive by using debris. They discover a door. They're unable to fit into the lifeboats that are available on the Titanic. What follows is the reason why the door is so controversial. Rather than both of them attempting to fit on the door, Jack insists that Rose get on it and stay in the water. This is the reason why the door is so problematic. The final moment in which Leonardo DiCaprio is seen plunging into the ocean while Winslet's Rose screams for rescue boats to come back is the one in which Rose tells Jack that she would never let go after Jack succumbs to the cold and dies.
You have to go. Now.
No, Jack.
Get in the boat, Rose.
No, Jack.
Get on the boat.
People think that the door could have accommodated two individuals, which is the source of the outrage that this scene has produced. Over several years, the question of whether or not there was room for two individuals has been the subject of discussion, and numerous individuals have even put the potential to the test in the form of mythbusters, the method based on scientific research. To find a solution to this pressing subject, several scientific investigations and experiments have been conducted. The following kinds of analyses are among the most notable. This is the first Mythbusters experiment. This discussion was addressed by the Mythbusters team in the year 2012. To determine whether or not two persons could maintain their balance on the wooden panel without it sinking, they used a copy of the panel. They concluded that Jack and Rose could have successfully lived if they had both taken precautions to position themselves appropriately and used a life jacket to boost their buoyancy. In a circumstance where one's life or death was at stake, however, this would have required strategic thinking, which is not an easy task to accomplish. The second point is the buoyancy and weight distribution. The experts have pointed out that for floating debris to maintain its stability, the weight must be distributed uniformly. It is possible that the door would have become ineffective as a flotation device if Jack had climbed on it. Since the additional weight would have caused it to partially submerge. It was not enough to simply ensure that it would fit on the door. It was also necessary to make certain that it would remain buoyant enough to keep both of them out of the frigid water. The third point is about hypothermia and realistic survival. It was believed that the water temperature in the North Atlantic that night was approximately 28 degrees Fahrenheit, 2 degrees Celsius, which is below freezing. The rate at which the human body loses heat in water is 25 times faster than it is in air. There is a possibility that Jack would have had hypothermia even if he had managed to get a portion of himself onto the door. Although he could climb atop the door, survival experts believe that his best chance of survival was to keep his torso completely out of the water. This was not a guarantee even if he had done so. The reaction expressed by James Cameron. On several occasions, James Cameron himself has expressed his opinion regarding this subject. In the beginning, he disregarded the discussion by stating, "Jack had to pass away." It is stated in the script.
Bring that oar up here! Check them, make sure.
Additionally, in a more current interview in the year 2023, Cameron disclosed that he had done an experiment with hypothermia specialists as well as 2 stunt performers who had body weights comparable to that of Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. What is his conclusion? The task of getting onto the door without tipping it over would have been incredibly challenging under those circumstances, even though it was theoretically possible for Jack to fit through the door. Cameron stated Jack's best decision was to keep Rose alive and half of his body out of the water. A view from the cinematic discourse. Even though it is a work of fiction, the Titanic is a work of science, and Jack's death serves a function in the story. The emotional effect of the movie and Rose's metamorphosis would not have been the same without his sacrifice. If Jack had been able to survive...
Do you love him?
Pardon me?
Do you love him?
If you like.
Teach me to ride like a man.
the themes of love, sacrifice, and grief that were explored in the movie would not have been as forceful. Additionally, Jack and Rose were in a high-pressure situation that was very close to being fatal. Attempting to solve problems with a level head is practically difficult in circumstances of such severe severity. It is quite doubtful that they could conduct a thorough test of weight distribution and buoyancy because they were likely affected in their judgment due to the cold, weariness, and terror it caused them. In a 2019 interview with MTV, Leonardo DiCaprio repeatedly stated that he had no comment on the topic, even when his co-stars from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Margot Robbie and Brad Pitt, pressed him for an answer. This is a well-known fact that DiCaprio has decided not to speak publicly about the argument, with the intention of putting this whole thing to rest and driving a stake through its heart once and for all. Cameron put the theory to the test.
Playing while the water's coming toward you. See what I mean?
Here, but if we can get it all in one, then we're ahead of the game, because then we can work that one down.
In an interview with the Toronto Sun, the filmmaker disclosed that he had a forensic investigation performed in order to recreate the scene. The test came to the conclusion that only one person could have survived if they had been able to squeeze on the door. According to what he shared with the publication, we took 2 stunt people who were the same body mass as Kate and Leo, and we put sensors all over them and inside them, and we put them in ice water, and we tested to see if they could have survived through a variety of methods, and the answer was that there was no way that both of them could have survived. Only one could make it through. Concluding remarks. Would Jack have been able to live? The scientific evidence implies that there was a possibility that Jack may have survived under ideal circumstances, provided that both of them had been able to maintain their equilibrium and had utilized extra flotation devices. His survival, on the other hand, was extremely improbable considering the fact that he was suffering from hypothermia, water buoyancy, and the commotion that was occurring at the time. It is possible that the fact that the question of whether or not Jack could have been able to fit on the door...
Jack! Jack! Jack!
is one of the most contentious controversies in the history of cinema. It is the emotional weight of his sacrifice that makes Titanic a classic picture, and it is this weight that continues to keep people involved in this discussion even decades after the film was released. Like, comment, and subscribe for more. Your support means the world.